Oh, and one last announcement. Because we are at the half-year mark for membership, we are offering, and we've not done this before, we're offering your membership at a half rate for the remainder of the year. So if you join us now, you pay half, which the membership fee is pretty low anyways, but come be a part of our team. I've never worked with a more passionate group of people, not only on the board, but as a membership on the whole. We love each other and we help support one another, especially in this very strange and stressful time that we're living in. So now I'm going to turn it over to our chapter advisor. She's going to introduce our person today, our sponsor today. Thank you. I'm going to myself now.
Okay. Hi, I'm Stephanie Graham. I am the former chapter president of IFDA, and I have the privilege of introducing John Neill Painting, which is a family business. So we have Sue and David, who will be giving our presentation this morning, which I feel so lucky. A little bit of background. They do real high quality painting. They also have carpentry, which I'm hoping to get to see the shop someday after this COVID. I was very excited to get out there, but I think this put a little damper on a few things as far as getting out to see them. And I'd like to, let them explain all of those fine finishes and things that they do in their business. So I'm going to turn it over to Sue. Are you going to start?
Yeah, and if you guys, we practiced this as an in-person originally, and we've gone through it again as doing kind of a tag team, but David and I are in different locations and I'm handling the PowerPoint. So if there's a 3-second delay like on the news, please bear with us as we go through. So the title of this presentation is The Evolution of Luxury, and we're going to focus on the fine paints of Europe, but also just talk about using specialty finishes to elevate the project. So I'm going to let David do a little quick intro about what we're going to cover and why, and then I will tell our story really quickly and they'll take you through the technical side of the actual product. If you have questions here and there, I think we'll use the chat box. Hopefully it'll pop up and I can see it, and we can cover them as they come up, and then we'll leave room for questions at the end as well. So this is David's slide.
Good morning, everyone. So we'll be going through a little bit of the difference between fine paints of Europe and domestic paint, and also the process, the kind of qualifications of the craftsmen that are applying it as well, and the difference between, just the look, the feel, everything about it. So all paint is not created equal, meaning the pigments in fine paints of Europe, the fillers, the binders, everything is of the highest quality, whereas in domestic paint, there are not the same requirements because they're selling 80% of domestic paint is sold out of big box stores, and price is the biggest factor. So they're trying to sell a $25 gallon of paint, which has no restrictions on the amount of chalk, the amount of extenders and things that basically dilute the quality. So that's kind of the gist of where these are not equal products. Very similar to food. If you have a pure grass-fed Wagyu beef burger versus McDonald's, there's going to be a multitude of ingredients in the McDonald's burger versus the purity of a grass-fed burger.
All right, so just real quickly, our story. So our father started the company 45 years ago now, and we've always been focused on two main things. One is customer service, and the other is craftsmanship. And that's what's really continued to allow us to set ourselves apart in the industry. Of things have grown and evolved over the years. And so David has been involved for 20 years now. It's amazing when you think about how fast time goes. And I can let him do his intro, or I can do it real quick for him. He worked in the field originally as an undergrad in fine art and a master's in interior architecture and design from Drexel University. So really has, like I said, that background technical knowledge, and has been an applicator himself, so really understands the process behind the painting. And then for myself, I am now going into my 16th year, and my background is in customer service and marketing. And actually, our marketing consultant, Dale, is on the call with us today, kind of watching over us. We went through all of this together to make sure we had everything tightened up and ready to go. And so we've done a good job, I think, of, as things evolve, staying on top of the technological changes, but continuing to focus on the importance of the craftsmanship and the application. So there are three basic things we're going to walk through today. One's the process, and then we're going to walk through the materials, and then we're going to walk through the craftsmanship. So our starting point is, I can do it versus I'm a certified Fine Paints of Europe applicator. So, you know, I don't know how many times you guys have asked whoever you're using for painting or a specialty product or finish if they can use a specific product or finish, and they say, sure, I can do it. And we run across that a lot as well. And what we'd like to do today is kind of define the difference between the people that say, sure, I can do it, and the ones that are actually certified and fully trained in the proper execution for these specialty finishes. And like I said, David's been in the field. Our other estimator, Patrick, who some of you may have met if you've had an estimate with us before, is also a trained craftsman out of Ireland. So they're both certified fine paints craftsmen. They know how to apply it, so that also makes it easier for them to estimate it and to talk to you about it, which isn't always the case depending on who you're dealing with. So now I'm going to turn it back over to David and let him get started with giving you the inside scoop on how the fine paints really works.
Thank you. So the process is, you know, the whole kind of way to achieve this beautiful finish. And when people speak of Fine Paints of Europe, they're usually speaking about the Holland lac, which is the brilliant. And they do make a flat wall paint. They make a matte satin. They make every paint that, you know, you could think of, but they're most well known for their high gloss finish, which is seen all over Europe on doors. Interesting fact about fine paints, they're imported from Holland, and Holland is sort of the mecca of paint in the world. Not sort of, it is. So, you know, brands like Dutch Boy and you know, the Flemish painters had these brilliant colors, and so it's steeped in their tradition and their history. But if you think about the real estate market in Europe versus the United States, there's also a connection there, because people in the US move much more frequently than people in Europe. So if you're, you know, growing up in Europe and you're looking for a durable, long-lasting finish because you live in a house that your parents had, and you know, it may go, you know, hundreds of years and through your lineage, they're looking for durability. They take pride in their homes. And I think the statistic here is the average American moves every 47 months. So when you're flipping houses or you're moving frequently, you're not necessarily investing in a long-term durable product that's, you know, going to outlast the time that you're there. So the process, here are some doors from a job in Villanova that, you know, are two nice large wood doors that were beat up, you know, sun damaged, weathered, and they wanted to finish it in a brilliant black. So we took the doors off the hinges, brought them to our shop. All necessary repairs are made. These doors were actually clamped and glued from our carpenters to get the panels back to pristine state. Then they were oil primed with Fine Paints of Europe oil undercoater, tinted to black. The white that you're looking at on here is a Swedish putty application, which is basically a ground marble dust into a binder that can be used as a spackle, which is coated over the door, sanded, and at this point they're glass-like finish right now. And then after this, we prime them again, and then they get two more finish coats. And this is the brilliant in black. You can see Tim, our applicator, who sprayed these doors. That's his reflection. That's in our spray booth prior to installation. So these doors are then wrapped, crated, and delivered back to the home for installation. And this is the finished product. So you can see kind of the wow factor of your front entrance walking up to the door, and no one's going to miss that, you know. So there's the high gloss. It is actually the highest gloss finish you can get on the market. That's undisputed.
Hold on, we got chat. Let me just see if there are any questions before we keep going. No, just comments. Okay. So next we're going to move into the specific materials, which David mentioned briefly, but we'll take you through each one, and he'll talk to you about where they're best used and why.
So this is the Brilliant we'll start with, which is what you just saw on those doors. The other thing about these materials are they are systems that you use to create these finishes. So someone who says, you know, I can use fine paints, or I've used fine paints, they may use it and they may not be able to achieve the ultimate goal, because if you use regular paint thinner and not their paint thinner, which is a higher quality thinner that's specifically used to go with their products. Same thing with knowing what brushes to use, how to mitigate dust, and all of these things that are a multitude of small incremental factors that achieve the finest finish. You won't achieve that, and we've seen it so many times where, you know, we've gone to job sites that the people have spent a large amount of money to get a horrible job, and then the worst thing is having to undo someone's poor work to get it back to the standard that it needs to be. So it's one of those things where it's not, oh, it's just shiny paint. You know, a lot of times someone will say, oh, I can put that shiny paint on, and they end up really destroying things. So they have a full line of interior and exterior, oil base, acrylics, and modified acrylics, which is a hybrid, which is their eco. This is a old pair of shutters and a planter box in Society Hill. You can just see how the contrast of the black with the plants and the color just, you know, it's really something special when you see it. And you walk down 2nd Street, and this is, I think, on American Street, you know, you'll see a good bit of fine paints in that area. This is a library in Haverford with a, I think it's husky gray Benjamin Moore color, where all the millwork, the walls, everything was done in high gloss except for the ceiling. So this is all a brilliant finish. And this is all brushed here. This is all hand brushed. This is another different house in Haverford as well, with the stairway. You can see the high gloss on the black. So the stair treads and the spindles and newel posts and all the railings were done all the way up to the 2nd floor in the brilliant finish, and white on the spindles. So it really highlights, you know, the architectural millwork of these older, beautiful homes. And this is a more contemporary look. This is a brilliant white ceiling in, this is in Bryn Mawr. So that's another way to kind of highlight a room if you don't do the whole room, which, you know, a lot of people aren't, you know, they may not want the whole room done, but they may want something that's really spectacular. So the ceiling is a nice way to just add a really unexpected element and a real wow factor to a room. This is a dining room. So these are kitchen cabinets, and this is the Eco, which is our preference for cabinets. It has a lower odor. It is a extremely durable hybrid, which is a modified alkyd. So it's water thinnable, clean up with soap and water. It's eco-friendly, and it is interior and exterior, and it's one of the most durable paints out there. So it's a true factory finish on cabinets. And this is just an off-white. I believe it's white dove. This was all sprayed. So when we do the cabinets, we take the cabinet doors, the drawer fronts off, bring them to our shop, clean everything, sand everything, prime it, and then finish it. And then the kitchen, all the box frames are masked off and sprayed on site after prep. And so their flat and matte is probably their least known products that are as amazing as their high gloss, because they have their mattes and flats are all washable, scrubbable, and the coverage is amazing. The durability is amazing, and the quality of the product is still superior to anything you're going to find in any domestic paint. So the color retention is going to last longer. You're just going to see, you know, the difference between the way they grind their pigments. Even is for, I think they take 3 days to grind pigments, where, you know, in a large factory here it may be a couple hours. So it's that fine and that much care into their product that, you know, it's getting a better finish all around in every aspect. So this is their clear marine yacht varnish in the high gloss. This is Delancey Street in Philadelphia, the flower boxes and the front entrance. We typically do 3 coats minimum, and it's, you know, it's a furniture grade finish when you see this done correctly. This is a satin finish on a, this door is actually 300-year-old door from France that this customer had brought in and, you know, retrofit to their front entrance. This is in Gladwin, and this is, we actually finished this in high gloss and then satin over it to just add another layer of durability to it. So there's their tricks of the trade. There's also nuances from working with the product. Another thing about being certified is you have the support from Fine Paints. So if you ever have any questions, or if you ever have, you know, if you're doing a background check on who you're hiring, you can call Fine Paints directly and say, look, I'm in, you know, southeastern Pennsylvania. I'm looking for a Fine Paints job. Who would you recommend? And there's only a handful of people in this whole region that are certified. We have the most in our company that are certified, and, you know, we have a direct line to them for immediate consultation, troubleshooting, anything like that. So these are front doors in Bryn Mawr in the high gloss. So colors, they can make any color on any fan deck, for if it's Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, Farrow and Ball. Pratt and Lambert doesn't seem to be around as much anymore. They have a vast selection of their own colors. Their fan decks are around $200, so they're expensive to get their fan decks. But if you have any color from Benjamin Moore or Sherwin-Williams, it's in their system, so they can make anything. We can also match colors for custom work.
Yeah, and both of these jobs were color matches. One was a Sherwin-Williams color and one was a Benjamin Moore color. So you don't have to be worried about, you know, having issues with having to use the Fine Paints colors exclusively.
Right.
All right, and now we're going to take you through the craftsmanship process.
So here's a plaster room in Haverford, and it's kind of showing you the amount of prep that's necessary to achieve this. This job was done in the brilliant finish in a navy blue. They have water damage. We had to repair sections of walls and ceilings in this job, and this is probably the 3rd step into priming, patching, and then once it was all primed in a navy blue primer, again with the Swedish putty to float the walls out so that they were perfectly smooth. This is hand sanding going on right now to just get everything knocked down to smooth, and then we go with a Festool or Mercovac, which is a HEPA vac, and this is being sanded again with a, you know, probably 400 grit sandpaper, so that when the final finish goes on, the surface is like glass. And this is the final finish here.
All right, so we're going to pause for 1 second, David. I'm going to read you a question. Removing a front door to properly do, how does this work for the client? They cannot have a door for several days.
So it varies. If it's a front entrance and there's, obviously there's usually another side entrance or garage door entryway. Most common would be to put plywood up, and then we screw it into the frame from the inside, so it's safe. No one can get through. If it's a standard door, we have doors sometimes that will just swap it out, and then you'll have a temporary door. That's the most common. But I would say more often, 70% of the time, it's secured with plywood, and then we take that back down and reinstall.
The other thing too, just to chime in, is we can do a door in place as well. So you could either have it removed, take it back to the shop and do the spray finish, which we showed you in the beginning. And actually in that case, we painted the plywood black so that it wasn't obvious while the doors were not on the house that they were missing. But we can also do a brush finish on site if that's something that you want. I think we pared down a little bit on the presentation because it wasn't in person and it was shortened a little bit, but do have a couple of photos of a door that we did on site in a house in Haverford with a brush instead of the spray finish. So there are two options as well, depending on how you want to tackle things. You can get the finish much more smooth to a degree with the spray in the shop. We have a lot more control when we're, in that environment than with the brush. So the house that we brushed the interior side of the doors was an older house in Haverford, and they wanted to leave the look of the age of the door, but just have the brilliant finish. They weren't concerned completely about it being sanded all the way back down to super, super smooth. They wanted to see a little bit of the, the age and the texture. So there are two options for that as well. And then how long does it usually take to have the door returned?
It's usually 4 to 5 days from the day we take it. It depends on the condition. Also depends on the size of the door. If it's like those double doors were probably a full week to 7 to 9 days for those doors. But your average door is probably 4 to 5 days. There's some curing time with that oil before you want to handle it, because it's not going to dry to a hard finish overnight. So you don't want to handle it, especially if it's very heavy. Even when it's wrapped, it can get, texture imprints from the moving blankets or whatever you're wrapping it in.
The other thing too to mention is that we do have a full carpentry division. So when we come to remove doors or kitchen cabinets, we actually send a carpenter to do that to make sure everything's marked and aligned properly. And then they're the ones that do the install again once everything's finished. So you're not having a painter try to take off a door and bring it back to the shop. You're having a trained carpenter come, remove everything, and then reinstall it and make sure all the hardware aligns properly when it's completed. All right, and let's see. So this is kind of the things we hear a lot, and I'll let David kind of go through it as the estimator and what he's encountered in working with customers and designers as well with regards to helping you guys to learn to sell the fine paints of Europe.
Yeah, so it's like anything else. It's not for everyone. It's really for the client who's looking for something that's high impact or very big wow factor, or someone who's really just values the quality and the craftsmanship that it takes to achieve this type of finish. It's more expensive because of the prep that's involved. The materials are more expensive than regular paint, but as in anything, the labor is the most expensive part. So that's why it's important to have someone who's qualified to do this work, because you don't want to spend a lot of money and get something that's subpar. But I think the majority of these jobs you see are front doors, because it is expensive to do a whole room. An average, I'd say your average ceiling in a dining room would probably be somewhere between $3,500 and $5,000. So you know, if there's a client who's looking for this type of job, this type of finish, they're going to know already that, you know, it's going to cost more. It's going to involve a process that's not like a normal paint job. And, you know, that we have that discussion up front and explain everything and how, you know, the room will be masked off. There's going to be air handlers and ventilation to keep the airflow, to keep the dust out. So there's a whole process that, you know, goes into this so that the value is there.
So the question is that for all of the finishes or just the high gloss finish?
Really just the high gloss. I mean, well, for kitchen cabinets, if it's in the satin, we're still masking everything off. We're still creating negative airflow to keep the dust down. For brushing and rolling, you know, flat and matte on walls and satin acrylic on the trim, that's still pretty much the same as a regular paint job. The prep may be a little more. So those are the jobs where, you know, for not maybe 10% more than a regular paint job, you could use Fine Paints of Europe and really see the difference, especially if you're working with brilliant colors or even just rich color. It's gonna have a much more of an impact. Just aesthetically, you will literally see the difference.
So then I'm going to take you through a few other specialty services we offer in addition to the fine paints. And one of our goals, and one of the things about the slide we were just on, is I've never heard of it. One of our goals is to really just educate as much as possible. So quick backstory to go back 45 years ago when my father started the business. He was also a U.S. history teacher in high school at University City for 30 years. So education's always been kind of at the top of the list. And our mother was a preschool teacher. So our goal as an industry partner with IFDA and other organizations is to provide as much education as possible so that you guys all have all of the tools and knowledge you need to assist your clients with whatever it is that they're looking for. Now, real quick, we have a question. If we have a client who wants this paint, do you bring out the fan deck? So like I said before, you can match to Benjamin Moore or Sherwin-Williams. You can pick any color you want, or we do have Fine Paints fan decks that we can loan you if you need one. They have more than one too, so it depends on, you know, what kind of color family you're looking for. But you really can pick any color you want from any fan deck, and then we can match it to the Fine Paints. So one of the other things we do is, and we touched on this a little bit, the furniture refinishing. So in addition to the kitchen cabinets, this was actually done for a designer locally, and this little nightstand on the left, which was brown, was heading to a beach house. And so they wanted to refinish them instead of purchasing new ones and repurpose them. So this is actually a Benjamin Moore color. And they picked new hardware and they came to our shop, they get refinished. That's actually them in the drying room. And then once everything's done, we'll have, and I don't think the hardware moved in this one. You can actually move the hardware as long as you let us know ahead of time so we can fill the holes and then pre-drill the new holes. Then we replace the hardware with the new hardware that was supplied. And then they go back to the customer. So we'll also do the pickup and delivery as needed, depending on the size of the piece of furniture. And then David can talk about these briefly. These are Fine Paints chairs.
Yeah, these are some set of chairs. This is just one of them that a customer brought in and wanted them finished in the high gloss. This is in a dark navy. So the cushions were removed and they were prepped and sprayed in our shop. I think, what's the next slide?
So, and then we've gotten into, like I said, we do have a full carpentry division and a carpentry shop in addition to the spray shop. So we've been doing quite a bit more custom cabinetry in the last year or so. This is a vanity that was actually custom built and is out at DTR upstairs in their bathroom. So if you have a bathroom and, you know, depending on the space that you're working with, we can actually customize a piece that fits exactly to the specifications, and then you can pick again any color and any finish you want. This one was done in the Brilliant. And I do believe they actually did pick a fine paints color, which don't have names. They're all numbers, so I don't know the name of this color. So custom cabinetry is an option, and we've been doing, like I said, quite a bit more vanities because it gives you much more flexibility with dealing with bathroom spaces and making sure you maximize the use of the space. And then this is actually, I think, is this house in Bryn Mawr, David, or Haverford?
Bryn Mawr.
Bryn Mawr, an older stone home in Bryn Mawr, and they wanted to add in custom cabinetry in their living room, but it was done in a way where it looks like it has been there all along. So to the left is actually a bar, and to the right you can kind of see the top of where the TV is mounted, and now they've had all this added storage put in to finish off the room. And on the other side of the room, under their windows, there was extra space, so we actually we installed all the wainscoting. It looks like it's been there since the house was built, and also installed some custom cabinetry under each of the window seats. So now they have additional storage in the house. And we're able to utilize that kind of quote unquote wasted space. The other thing that we do, I'm not sure if everyone's aware of or not, is wall covering installation. And we do also have someone on staff who specializes in that. What we've seen a lot of in the last year or so is ceiling installations. So this is a house in Haverford as well, just a job we did for a designer, where they kept the walls neutral and put a really fun wallpaper on the ceiling. And then again, in the same house in the nursery, they put wallpaper on both the walls and the ceiling of the baby's room. And then as well here, it's a little bit hard to see, and I believe those are flamingos. This is actually Fine Paints of Europe in a butler's pantry in the high gloss finish, and then wallpaper installation behind all the cabinetry and all the walls as well. All right, and so now we're going to get to additional questions if anyone has them. I think somebody asked about the cost on those little end tables. David, I don't know if you remember what those were.
I'm not sure. I think those were done in the eco and fine paint, so they required a little more prep than average. But I would say for something like that, it's probably somewhere between $900 to $1,200 or something like that.
And the thing that happens with that is if you have a piece of furniture that you like and that there's really nothing wrong with, and you just want it to be a different color, you have the flexibility to pick any color you want and any finish you want and get exactly what you want. So sometimes it can be a little limiting trying to shop with what's available as opposed to refinishing and really just having infinite possibilities.
Yeah, and also depends also on the condition of the furniture. Some pieces people want, they want the character. If it has some dings in it or it has some knots in it, they want to keep that. Whereas if you want it pristine and completely smoothed out and everything filled and polished, it's going to just be more work.
The other question is, excuse me, who do we contact for job estimates? So you can, and actually, do I have it? I have a thank you slide at the end, which has our email address and phone number on it. If you go to our website as well, there's an estimate request form there that you could submit, and we'll be in touch. But you can always just reach out to David or myself. Like I said, if you call the main office and schedule an estimate, we'll be happy to come out and take a look at anything. So the other question, is there a residual odor on the high gloss finish, David? The other paints don't really leave behind an odor because they're not oil based, but for the high gloss paint.
There is, and it also depends on what you're doing. So if you're doing a whole room, there's obviously going to be more of an odor than if you're doing just a door or just one area. So that's something that, we have to take into consideration. That's with the high gloss oil typically only. The eco and the other finishes do not have an odor that's any more than what you would experience with a regular paint. It may even be less odor, but the oil, because of the nature of it being an oil finish does have an odor, and it really does take a few weeks to dissipate completely. So when we're doing rooms like that, we mask off and we have constant ventilation and air filters running. We also use charcoal filters. We will use odor magnets, everything we can to mitigate the odor as quickly as possible. But there is definitely a residual odor, but it's also depending on the volume of work you're doing.
So another question is, how far do you travel? We're actually licensed in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. So we've done shore houses for customers that live here locally. We did a really big project, I want to say about 2 years ago in Delaware for a builder that's actually local to Pennsylvania. Generally speaking, we go about an hour from where we are, which is in the Ardmore. But we've gone farther. Actually, it was a few years ago now, but we had a customer that moved to Boston and couldn't find a painter he was happy with, and actually asked if we would send a crew up if he put them up for, you know, however long it took to repaint his new house in Boston. So we've gone farther than, you know, an hour for sure, but generally speaking, anything within an hour of Ardmore or so. And again, like I said, Delaware and New Jersey, we're fully licensed in both states as well. I'm a mural artist. It seems to me that you wouldn't put a mural over these paints, but is there a recommendation? For a base coat, I guess, David.
Oh, for putting
For a mural.
For mural?
Yeah.
We've done base coating for mural artists. We've done some murals ourselves, and typically it depends on the sheen, to be honest. If you're looking for a flat finish versus something that you need to be able to slide the layers of paint on, then you would want like an eggshell. But it really depends on what the medium is that you're using for the mural. You know, most domestic paints are fine for a base coat for a mural. Actually, I worked in the home of someone in the mural arts program, and they were using exterior paint on their wall as the base coat. So it was interesting.
All right. Let me go. So I did just put our contact information in the chat box, but there is another slide here. But before we kind of wind down with our part of things, we do have a door prize, and we randomly selected a name from the list of everyone that was registered. And I'm not sure, because I can't see everybody on my screen if she's on the call or not, but our winner for today is Ida McCausland. Is she on the call? I know she was registered.
Ida jumped off.
Oh, is she the one that left early?
I'll accept it on her behalf.
Does that mean it goes
Yeah,
on your
you had a
door? Or does
contractor
that
show
mean?
up.
Okay, so we'll reach out to her and let her know and coordinate that. So we always try to do a door prize at the end. So this is also a door that was done in Haverford over by the golf course, and another color match for a high gloss finish. So here's, and like I said, I did put this in the chat box. You can always email me directly. I'll be happy to send things out, or you can call the main office, and whoever answers the phone can schedule or estimate. You'll either get David coming out to take a look, or our other estimator, Patrick, who's actually been with us for 30 years, and they can go through all the details with you. Someone asked about samples. So what we can do is we'll send a follow-up email as well. We are in the process of updating a few sample kits that we'd be happy to share with you to make it easier for you when you're sitting with a customer to show them the finishes and kind of explain the process. So like I said, when we send our follow-up email, you can reply to that and let us know if you're interested in that. I know Stephanie mentioned early on that she wanted to come and see the shops. So we do still have the option to do that if you want to schedule a shop visit, and you know, everybody just will kind of wear a mask and stay distant. But we're happy to have you come through and see. What we have set up is our carpentry shop and our spade booth shop are on the same property. So like, for example, when we were looking at the DTR vanity, that was all built on site in the carpentry shop. and then taken across the driveway into the paint shop and into the spray booth where it was refinished. And then once it was finished with, curing in the drying room, the carpenters load it up, take it out to the location and do the installation. So we're happy to have you guys come through and see behind the scenes of how we kind of operate in that sense. So Stephanie, I guess back to you.
Good morning.
Or Laura, okay.
Hi, Sue. Thanks. Gosh, guys, what a great job. Thank you for your time. When you said that it's about education, you nailed it. I'm not an interior designer, but I do work in a lot of homes. And my perspective of painting and all things fine European is definitely expanded. Those photos that you showed were beautiful. I especially liked the varnish and how you made that wood come back to life. So I just had one question that I think is kind of important, and wondering if you guys wouldn't mind weighing in before we sign off. How do you work with the design community? Can you kind of talk us through that process?
Sure. Do you want to go, David, or you want me to start?
Yeah, you can start. Okay.
Okay. So we can do it either way. And I'm assuming you're talking, just to be blunt, about commissions and how we figure all of that in.
Well, that, and also kind of how does, if someone has not worked with you before, how do you get started?
Okay.
I know that you put your contact information up there, but I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. So and it's a little bit interesting now, obviously, because of where we are with things, but we're happy to meet with you beforehand and have a one-on-one conversation and learn more about your business and what it is you're looking to achieve and how we may be able to help you. That's always been our goal, is to kind of be supportive to the design community. And as the end user, we have a little bit more experience, like I said, with the application side of things and know the ins and outs and kind of tricks of the trade. So I guess we could do a Zoom meeting at this point if you wanted to do a one-on-one meeting and just learn a little bit more and ask some additional questions. Then normally what would happen is, if you give us a call and you have a specific project you're interested in, we'll set up a time to come out and meet with you and the customer as well, if that's part of the process on your end, to go through all the details and provide an estimate. And just for pricing purposes, we can either send it directly to you with our cost, and then you can mark it up and send it on to your customer through your system, or we can put your commission into our estimate and send it direct that way as well. So we can work either way. Does that kind of cover what you were asking?
Oh, that was good. I just feel like
Okay.
a lot of folks on the call that maybe you do business with currently or not. So I thought it would be really important for you to kind of expound on that a little bit.
Yeah. And we have some designers that we work with pretty regularly. And so for us, like I said, customer service has always been at the top of our list of important things. And so, a regular customer or designer or builder, for us, it's all about building relationships and being available when needed, for whatever it is that you're working on.
Awesome.
Really good.
Well, thank you again, guys, for your time. We really appreciate that. Someone had put in a private chat to me as far as this video and being able to get it again. Renee will put it up on our YouTube channel. So if you go onto YouTube and you just search IFDA Philly, the recording will be there. Okay. So unless we had anyone else that wanted to kind of chime in and ask questions instead of chatting them, we'll stop the screen share now. Put us on gallery view. Please feel free to unmute yourself. This is a time for us. We have about 10 minutes left to our time together. And this is just a time for us to kind of chat and network.
How large are your crews, and how many crews do you actually have?
Generally speaking, it's 2 to 3, and I say men because right now that's what we have in the field, 2 to 3 men per crew. And I don't know, David, how many crews do we have out there right now?
Probably about 12 crews right now.
Okay, yeah.
But for this type of work, if it's specialty, then it's going to be limited. You know, we have about six employees right now that are highly skilled in this application. So unless it's a very large job, it's typically 2 men, maybe 2 and a helper on a job site for fine paints.
And what happens with the spray booth, just real quick, and then I'll let you ask, is to the gentleman, Tim, that you saw his reflection in the door in the very beginning, he is the one that's in the spray booth all day, every day. So that's really what his specialty is and what he focuses on. So with the spray finish, it's that same person that's kind of been getting better and better and better every day, because that's what he does all day, every day.
Do you only, since you're saying that you have some employees that are only specialty, does that mean you use other paints, or do you always use fine paints?
No, we use every paint. I mean, we probably use Benjamin Moore the most, followed by Sherwin-Williams, and then fine paints after. So it is more of a specialty finish. But like I said, the flats and the mattes, you can use those, you know, pretty normal, you know, without having to worry about price and stuff like that. They're trying to actually package their paints into more kind of value size, because they were in European in liters. So now they have a 5 liter, which is like almost 2 gallons, and they can bring the pricing down because they're selling it in a bigger volume. The average room is 1.5 gallons of paint to paint it. So they've kind of honed in on getting the right quantity to do a room, and then they can value price it. So for the flat and the matte, they are fairly competitive with, I'd say, your premium lines like Emerald and Aura with Sherwin-Williams and Benjamin Moore.
Interesting. If we plan a trip out, how many people at a time do you think would be good to come out to see the carpentry and things, if people were interested? I know I am, but you know, would it be 1 at a time or maybe 2 people at a time?
The space here is large enough that we could accommodate, I would say, no more than 4. And even that, you know, would be maybe split up between, because the shops are separated by a driveway, but you know, they're across the driveway from each other, so that 2 could go to one and 2 could go to the other and then switch. So I would say 4 would be probably the maximum I would recommend. But you know, if you had 2 or 3 people in one company that wanted to come, if not, we could accommodate people one-on-one. It's, you know, okay. But yeah, I would say 4 would probably be the max for right now.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask a quick question from the other end, from the design standpoint, is in terms of what it's been like for you guys these past few months, and if you're getting back up to or close to 100%, or if you've been able to work through since March when things have kind of all quieted down.
Well, I'll jump in. I'm involved in home services. We supply custom window treatments, mainly Hunter Douglas. And within the 2nd week of the shutdown, I was doing virtual appointments. I actually sold a project in Rittenhouse where the client did her own measurements. We did 2 Zoom meetings. One was the selection and one was the measurement for order. And it was a certain product, so we were comfortable with the way, trusting her measurements. And then this past week, it has just been off the hook. Well, actually the past 2 weeks have been crazy. since the governor said that the remodelers could go back into people's homes, we decided that we could start back installs, and I was going to do home consults. I'm averaging 2 to 3 appointments a day. I literally had to take today off to get caught up on stuff, but things are just crazy good right now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well,
Renee, how are things going with you guys? Your home services?
It's so funny. I was just chatting with Scott. I'm like, everybody's really ramping up, and I can see designers doing installs now, which means for us, it's usually 2 weeks later. We were lucky. We were fairly busy through the shutdown. I mean, as busy as we could be, because we pivoted to do outdoor stuff, which of course, distance stuff. So we were pretty fortunate, but we're usually like 1 or 2 weeks behind the installs. So I was getting excited hearing you say that, because that's usually, obviously how our business works. But I can definitely see estimates, requests rolling in a lot more frequently. So yeah, it's encouraging. It's nice to be back to work.
yeah.
Well, and it was nice to get the numbers out of May with the retail numbers up 17%. I mean, that for us I was just super excited. And most of the remodelers and builders that I'm talking to in the fields, they cannot keep up with demand. And then something's interesting happening with our business. We're getting people that, because they've been in their homes, they are like, I'm sick of this. This has to change. I was at a client yesterday that have had paper shades up for months, and they couldn't get to a decision. And now they're so frustrated they want it done tomorrow. And then home offices are now new. I was at a client's home, this young lady, because she has to work from home, there was so much glare coming through her window that she was getting washed out on her Zoom meetings. So we covered her window and solved her problems. So it's a new world. And I can't imagine that there's not a great opportunity for interior designers out there, because everyone that I'm talking to are sick of their windows. I can't imagine that they're not also equally sick of everything else in their house. They want updates.
I've already had 3 appointments with people who called me in to change a guest bedroom into a Murphy bed / home office, because hubby is now going to be working from home forever.
Yeah.
So that's really amazing. And I probably had 3 or 4 people that just want their pantry updated because it hasn't been working for 3 months with, all the kids and the hubby home. And so I'm seeing an uptick on the way we're all living now, and the changes that's going to make for everybody. So I agree with Laura. I think that there's a real opportunity for in the interior design community and all of our related tradespeople to see housewives giving you a call and saying, I need this fixed because I can't stand it and I've lived in it for too long.
So all of your Instagram should start with, are you sick and tired of ... That same wall color, hire us and John Neill so we can update your home. Well, it's 10 o'clock, guys. If there's not anything else, we will sign off. Thank you again, the folks from John Neill, Sue and David. We're so happy to get to know you better as our sponsors, and also blowing our minds with your amazing art form of what you do, because you go beyond my construct of what painting is. You guys are artists by all definitions, and just thank you again for your time and supporting our IFDA chapter. It really means a lot. And we show you guys a lot of love every time we have meetings like this. We at least say your name. So, you know. And again, remind you, if you're not a part of us, come join the happy family that we are. We would love to have you. Feel free to reach out to any one of us to get more information about membership.
Thank you very much for having us this morning.
Thank you.
Great job. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great weekend, everybody, and happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there.
Thank you. Great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.